I think in the interest of time, we'll start with the first session. Thank you very much. While I was speaking, I realized, as the President spoke about the Chief Minister, one person I forgot to mention who was instrumental in arranging and making sure that the Chief Minister came, and that is our Managing Committee member, Abhinavbhai Malmiya. I think because of the light, I probably could not spot you, but when I sat there and heard about the Chief Minister, again, somebody who's working very, very hard for the branch and on all the efforts that you are putting along with the entire Managing Committee. So, what I will do, friends, in the next 45 minutes that I have, is try and take you through, of course, the networking guidelines of the Institute, probably leave 5-10 minutes at the end for you to raise any questions, any issues, and let this be as interactive as you would please. If there is any slide in the middle which you think you have a question on, feel free to ask there, or we can have questions at the end. It can be anything with regards to the regulation, it can be with regards to your understanding, what challenges you are facing, or what are the impediments in implementing this. But the idea, of course, when the topic was given to me, and I remember I was at the airport, Purushottam Bhai called me and Nirav Agarwal ji was with him, and they said, our topic che, and I said, okay, whatever you decide, I'll thankfully be able to speak on it. And therefore they gave me this topic of networking, and I said, when we talk about networking, this is actually the future of our firms. So before I talk about the future of the firms, very important for me to talk about the current state of play. Because there is a very old saying which says, if you want to go somewhere, you should know where you are coming from. अगर कहीं जाना है, तो कहाँ से आए हो, वो नहीं भूलना चाहिए. So where we are currently as a profession, I think it is very important for us to first understand that. And then, of course, we can all plan of where we want to be in the future. Why I put up that logo there, which Purushottam Bhai spoke about. So many times I used to go, and many of you will be aware, I have a reasonable international practice which takes me across the world. And I would go to Australia and meet somebody as John, and he would come up to me and say, hi, I'm John, CP Australia. You go to the UK, you meet somebody in Ireland, he'll say, hi, I'm Alex, I'm CP Ireland. આપણે શું કહીએ? I am chartered accountant from ICAI. Again, the institute, 1949, 4 lakh members, close to 10 lakh students now, the largest accounting body. But what brand can we carry with ourselves? Which, of course, we had the CA logo and the green tick. And again, I think it's coincidence, 2007 is when that logo was launched, when my father was at that time the president. And when I came into the council and we did the World Congress, I realized that now it's the time for India and ICAI. Gautam Adani ji, who came to the World Congress, said, if there ever was a time to be in India, to be associated with India, or to be Indian, it is now. The Prime Minister said, yahi waqt hai, sahi waqt hai. And all these things align, and we at the council started thinking, then how do we then create a logo for our members which truly reflects the brand that we all carry? And looking at the international practices and mindful of the fact that yes, many of us like to call India Bharat also, but today we are the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And how do we resonate that brand globally? And that is where the design thinking came in. And all we simply did was, along with the green tick, which was put in 2007 as a mark of the auditor's tick, we added the saffron tick and made the tricolor of India there in the logo and added the words India. So tomorrow, Chetan Bhai, if you go international, you can proudly say, I am Chetan Jagetia, CA India. Like people say CP Australia or CP Ireland. So that is the idea of why we did this branding. Where are we today? I think in terms of audit, I just try to put in what is the work that we do besides our tax compliance services in terms of the audit assurance services, internal audit, statutory audit. Statutory audit can be largely bucketed as company audit, income tax audit, or maybe trust cooperative audits that we do. Other work that we look for, bank audits, something that we've all been waiting for. You know, we've been lucky in a country that has public sector banks, that is CAG and PDC, and of course RBI allot bank branch audits to our members and firms. But believe me, this is not the future. You go anywhere in the world, I see, and as a council member, so many of us have written to me saying, can there be a system where all audits get allotment? Look, we don't live in a socialist city or a country. Even a city like, or a country like China, if you go to any of the larger places there, you will not find allotment work. Work is always to be found, has to be grabbed by size, by quality, and by the kind of efforts that we put in. So for us, any of us in the room who has an expectation that institute will give us work, look, I've traveled the world representing ICAI. I met the French president the other day, and when I told him about professional development committee and the fact that, we have a MEF form and then the bank, he was shocked. He says, what? You give work? You help members get work? And I said, yes, that's a very integral part of every elected member in the regional council or the central council. The expectation of the elected members is that you must give them work. And he said, no, you have got it all wrong. The role of the professional institute is you give them the highest level of qualification, give them CPE, and continue to give them skills. And then you have to throw them into the ocean and they have to go and find work. And this is what resonates everywhere in the world. Why I'm trying to tell you is, once you have that in your mind and very clearly laid out, you will no longer be looking for other empanelments and other places for you to get that work. Let us realize that if you have to grow, and today there are firms in India, leave alone the foreign firms which are doing thousands of crores of revenue, but there are so many of firms which are in the tens of crores and hundreds of crores in revenue. And then therefore, how do you build a firm like that? Vishal Bhai Doshi is here, and again, as I was mentioning about elected members, we have both our council members from Gujarat who are here. And let me tell you, as I move forward, that I have been singularly lucky that in my second term, in my very first year, I decided to contest for vice president. And God was kind, the council found in me a suitable person to be elected as vice president. So far, in so many years history of the institute, very rarely would a person who would have contested in the first time to become vice president could have got elected in the first attempt. Salu CA final એક attempt માં નથી થતું તો vice president તો સવાલ નથી. But the only reason I could become is that for the first time in history of ICAI, we had 3 council members from Gujarat, along with myself, Vishal Doshi and Purushottam Khandelwalji. So as I stand before you today, mindful of the fact that in 1 week from now, we will have the code of conduct for the elections which will be announced. Let me also say this, being a council member myself from Gujarat, that please, today we may not have been able to come in a large number because of the weather, but when the elections happen, I think it is in December 6th and 7th of December, આ ડેટ મારે યાદ રાખવી નથી પડતી because I am not contesting the election, so I am thankfully not contesting, but my request, and I think it's our all duty, that as Gujaratis, as people from Gujarat, let us all come out in large number and vote for our people from Gujarat. મુંબઈમાં આ લોકોને કોઈને કંઈ મળવાનું નથી, એટલે આપણી જવાબદારી છે બધાની સૌની કે let's try and consolidate ourselves, back our people from Gujarat who are contesting, and I think if that happens, we can ensure that as a city, as Ahmedabad, we get the maximum representation, and of course, more importantly, as the state of Gujarat, we also get maximum representation. So that's one request that I would like to make. But yes, coming back to my presentation and what I was talking about, maybe some of us are in project finance, some of us do direct tax, some of us are experts in indirect tax. I think largely when I've gone across the country, met firms, many smaller proprietor firms have to do both. So they practice direct tax, file income tax returns, and also consult on GST because of the limited set of staff and the kind of restrictions that you have. So you are also doing direct and indirect tax. Now with the IBBI and the new insolvency code, a lot of people have got into insolvency practice, and thanks to that also developed a forensic practice, and therefore we today have forensic standards. And of course, now an emerging area which Manu Agarwalji is going to speak to you about is on information technology, which is also a growing area. So this is largely currently our state of play. Now look at what the numbers say, and this is coming from none other than the UDIN. Look at what technology has done. પહેલાં કોઈને પૂછવું હોય કે કેટલી પ્રેક્ટિસ અક્રોસ ઇન્ડિયા, કેટલા કામ ઇન્ડિયામાં થઈ રહ્યા છે, બહુ અઘરું હતું. આજે ખાલી યુડિનનો રિપોર્ટ કાઢો ને તમારી સામે આખી ફેક્ટ્સ આવી જશે. વોટ ઇઝ ધ કાઇન્ડ ઓફ વર્ક આર મેમ્બર્સ આર ડુઈંગ? આખા વર્ષમાં 7,70,000 કોર્પોરેટ ઓડિટ કર્યા. Some people may ask, what are the number of companies that are there in India? 13 lakhs. પણ યુડિન ખાલી 7 લાખ જ જનરેટ થયા છે, એટલે કદાચ 5-6 લાખ એવી કંપનીઓ હશે જેનું ઓડિટ જ નથી થઈ રહ્યું. કંપની બની ગઈ, કોઈ કમ્પ્લાયન્સ નથી થઈ રહ્યું. I think it is for ROC and the ministry to look after the compliance, but what the numbers tell us is that there are 7 lakh corporate audits, 2 lakh non-corporate audits, and 2 lakh concurrent audit UDIN numbers that are being generated. Go down to the GST and tax audit. Form 3CB, that is 44 AB in audit, 26 lakhs that have been generated in terms of UDIN. And now these are all numbers which are coming out from our UDIN portal. Therefore, we know as a profession and as an institute and as the council, what is the current practice that our members are into. What is the breakup then of our membership? And these are numbers very recent. I believe this is March or April that I have tried to collate. I'm aware we had a result in May and that number needs to be added. But let's just look at this number for now and see how our practice is. 4 lakh, round figure કહું છું, 4 lakh ચાર્ટર્ડ એકાઉન્ટન્ટ છે, 1,15,000 જેવા FCA અને 2,90,000 ACA. So therefore, still very, very few fellows. Yes, of course, the fee is higher. Maybe not many have completed the 5 years that are required for you to apply for fellowship. And also a fact that today our profession is very young. India's average age is 28. The average age of the profession is even below. And therefore, this number only confirms the fact that it's a very young profession. If you look at the numbers of COP, 4 lakh mathi khali 1,60,000 COP holder and 2.5 lakh jetla non-COP holder. In a country of 140 crores, where there are now at least 8 crore taxpayers, not all of them are paying tax, but they are filing a return. We are only 1,60,000 COP holders. And out of this 1,60,000, you know how many generate UDIN? Just close to, જેને 2 થી વધારે UDIN generate કર્યા હોય એવા ખાલી 1 લાખ જણ છે. So effectively in practice, actively doing attestation audit work, because some of them may be in chamber practice. I have seniors sitting in the hall. They may not be doing audit. They may only be consulting and they may have young partners signing. But all put together, if you look at the number of 1,50,000, in a country of 140 crores, we are still a huge minority. And therefore, the question is, what is then stopping us coming together, creating higher revenues for ourselves and our firms? Again, the same data that I've tried to put in here, if you look at the number of growth of membership, when we were in 119, we were close to 2,73,000 members. Today we are 3,60,000 members and 1,722, this was the number. Today we are 4 lakh. The president of our institute currently has put an estimate, though I personally may not agree with it, of having 30 lakh members by 2047. My estimate and my understanding of this profession, seeing it through 3 generations, I think 2007 we had close to 1,25,000 members. Currently we've reached 4 lakh after 15 years. If I have to put a number 25 years from now, I would probably put it close to 10 to 15 lakhs is what my estimate would be in terms of number of chartered accountants. Because let us also understand one thing, while the institute's role is to conduct the examination and have the students pursue chartered accountancy, what we cannot ever do is lower the standard of the profession and create chartered accountants who are not ready for the market. It may be domestic or international. And therefore, I think somewhere things calibrate. CPT 9 આવ્યું તો એકદમ સ્ટુડન્ટ્સ વધી ગયા, આર્ટિકલ વધી ગયા, આપણે ના પાડવી પડતી હતી કે ના હવે આર્ટિકલશીપ નહીં લઈએ. Then we also saw drought, કોઈ આર્ટિકલશીપ માટે જ નહોતું આવતું. So these cycles in any business, any form will have, and similarly we'll probably have it in our practice. But what I'm trying to show you is a trend of the increase of number of chartered accountants. Now, before we go to networking, what is the current state of play? We are largely a proprietorship driven practice. In terms of the total size, more than 60,000 firms are proprietor firms. Look at the size of partnership firms. Look at the size of sole practice are members who have applied for COP but have not taken an FRN. So those are sole practice. So the first and second are similar, either practicing in their own name or practicing as a firm with an FRN. Partnership firms just crossing the 20,000 threshold, and LLP firms very, very few. That is actually practicing in a more structured format. If you look at the networks, alliance model 10, lead firm model very few, and we have over 100 network models. So after all the efforts that the institute has been putting in for 20 years now, still very, very few number of networks that have got created. And the numbers, if you look at in the pie chart format, this is what our profession in practice today is. 71% of practicing members are still practicing as proprietors. 16% 2 પાર્ટનરની ફર્મ છે. એટલે 16 ને 71 ભેગું કરો એટલે 87% of the membership are in less than 2 partners. Go to any global level country. Go to the US, go to UK. You may think those are developed countries. Go to China. In China, what the government did 10 years ago was forced firms to come together and said, we will only make sure that you are eligible for audit if you are coming together and have a certain size and scale. I don't think in a country and democracy like India, it can ever be done or it is ever desired to be done. Because if you force people, I think it's not the right approach. And therefore, what the past president said, I use the same word, what we can do as a council or as an institute is only nudge you. We cannot push you, we cannot force you. But I think it's through seminars like this that we have to realize that when India is becoming the third largest economy in this next 3 to 4 years, when we are aiming to become a developed nation in the next 25 years, I think we have to start taking steps for it today. Only last week, we developed the fact that TCS 20 વર્ષ થયા listing કરે. What was it when it got listed? Very small entity. And today it's one of the largest technology players in the world. Go to London. Purushottam Bhai and myself were in London for a IFRS meeting. And we were going on the street and area was a London marathon હતું, જેમાં આપણા ત્યાં marathon થાય છે. And you know who the title sponsor of the marathon was? TCS. It was TCS London Marathon. And then I came to know that is the case for 10 days. So if we can do it in technology, where people have come together, what are they doing? They're writing software code, coming together and writing code, C++ at some time, Java, now doing other languages that they are using and working on probably AI and ML. They have now created huge enterprises which are service centers for the world in terms of technology. Why can't we then as a profession also start thinking, we also start coming 2, 4, 8 together, build a formal structure of how we will share our revenues and profits and build those kind of companies. And I think therefore it's important that we realize that today we are in a minuscule percent that we have the larger firms. 11% of the firms are 3 to 5 partners, which is still, I think, in the size of India, a good size to have 3 to 5 partners. But actual large firms, which are more than 6 partners, are just 2% of the total members in practice and total firms registered. Out of the 90,000 firms, just 2% are large firms. This is here, therefore, put out in terms of a graph. 63,000, that is 71% are proprietors. 2 પાર્ટનરની ફર્મો 14,000, 16%. 3 થી 5, 11%. આશરે 10,000 ફર્મો છે જેમાં 3 થી 5 પાર્ટનર છે. 6 to 10 partners, 1648. And now, which you actually call big in international terms, 10 or more partners are reckoned to be large firms. Just 352 firms, and even if you add the 60 firms at the bottom, barely 400 firms in this country which have more than 10 partners. Therefore, we are united but also diverse. And therefore, we have to now look at why it is important for us to merge, network and come together. I spoke about empanelment and how India probably is unique. It is one country where you can still call your elected members and say, well, bank audits are coming. Though they have no role to play, they can have no influence. Yet, the expectation is that the institute and council will bring some work for you. Look at the scenario globally. India uniquely placed છે. કંપની ઓડિટ કરો, કોઈ બી કંપની ઇન્કોર્પોરેટ થાય એટલે ઓડિટ કમ્પલસરી છે. LLP 40 લાખથી વધારે ધંધો કરે, ઓડિટ કમ્પલસરી છે. ટેક્સ ઓડિટમાં ઓફકોર્સ લિમિટ્સ હેવ બીન રેઝડ, બટ 8% નથી આપતા એટલે 44AD માં તો આપણી પાસે ટેક્સ ઓડિટ કરાવવા આવવું જ પડે છે. મેન્ડેટ કર્યું છે ઓડિટ કરવા માટે થ્રુ legislation. What is the international scenario? You will be surprised. In Malaysia, Malaysia is by no means a developed nation. 0.1 million થી ઓછું ટર્નઓવર હોય કે 0.3 million થી ઓછું એસેટ હોય અને એમ્પ્લોય કાઉન્ટ 5 થી ઓછા હોય, no audit. Go to a country like United Kingdom and they are now going to revise this limit this year. Up to 10 million of turnover, 5 million of assets and 50 employees, there is no audit. For those of us who understand accounting standards, for example, AS 15, where does it become applicable? 50 or more employees. Where does that 50 come from? It actually borrows itself. There's a very close connection of how our standards are built and what is being practiced in various countries. Our standards used to be UK dominated earlier, and therefore that 50 number you'll see is very common in the larger countries of UK and Australia, where if employees are below below 50, no audit is required. Look at the size in Australia, 25 million revenue સુધી અને asset 12.5 million સુધી ના હોય અને 50 થી ઓછા એમ્પ્લોય ના હોય, ઓડિટ કરવાની જ જરૂર નથી. સેલ્ફ અટેસ્ટ કરીને ફાઇલ કરી નાખો. Imagine if anything of that was to be brought in India, huge number of audits which are today understood to be mandatory and coming to us will go away. And therefore it is important that we all have to appreciate one very important fact. We should not think that work will come to us because I'm entitled to it. Work should come to me because it deserves my attention, because the client will appreciate the value that I bring to the work. And therefore, let's not aim to have more statutory work which is imposed. When GST audits were removed, so many people made a UN cry, oh sir, GST audit is not there. Tell me how much impact, I don't know, Bishan Bhai is here, GST practitioner, કોઈ ફરક પડી છે? કોઈના કામમાં નથી ફરક પડી, ઉલટું જવાબદારી ઘટી ગઈ છે. કેમ કે જે જીએસટી ઓડિટ કરવાનું હતું એમાં આપણે લિમિટેડ વસ્તુઓ કરીને સર્ટિફાઈ કરવાનું હતું અને આપણો ગલો the neck would have been on our line. But now you are still giving the same value add services. Tell me one client which has left you because he says that no, now 9 form 9 હતું ને કયું હતું ઓડિટ માટેનું 9C તમારે સાઈન કરો. GST is one area that I don't practice in, and therefore I very clearly also disclaim that I don't understand it. But 9C is not to be filed, and therefore તમારી પાસે ફાઇલ GST નહીં રાખવું. કોઈએ નથી કર્યું, ઉલટું સારું છે, એની સહીથી અપલોડ કરીને આપણે જ ભરવાનું છે. So 9C, which was earlier supposed to be my signature, my responsibility, my liability, is today shifted on the client, and I'm still filling up it because it is his responsibility in providing those services. But yet we are able to bill for those services. So the point is, for any service that comes to me, it is not necessary that it is mandatory or it is statutory that I have to be able to invoice for it. Learn one thing which I think over these years understood, having worked internationally, is as professionals, we are only in one business. And I know business is not a good term to use, but still we are only in one business. Our stock in trade, our inventory, our finished goods, our work in progress, our raw material, બધું એક જ છે. And that is nothing else but our time. We are in the business of selling our time. And once we understand that, we will be able to value our time, bill for our time. કોઈ client આવે, એકવાર આવે, મળવાનું, બીજી વાર આવે, આટલી ફી થશે. And I feel so happy when I go in Mumbai, I go in interior Gujarat, and sometimes I find લોકો પોતાની ઓફિસની બહાર સ્ટીકર મારે કે કન્સલ્ટેશનના આટલા રૂપિયા થશે. And I feel so happy that younger members, they have the capacity to say, boss તમે નહીં આવો ચાલશે, પણ જો અંદર આવશો ને મારી જોડે આટલા સમય માટે વાત કરશો તો આટલી કન્સલ્ટેશનની ફી થશે. કેમ કે ડૉક્ટરો લે છે દર વર્ષે, દર ચોમાસામાં આપણને શરદી થાય, એ જ દવાથી મટે ને તો જ ડૉક્ટર આપણી પાસે દર વખતે ફી લે છે. પણ ક્લાયન્ટનો પ્રોબ્લેમ આવે ને ફોન પર આપણને પૂછે ને આપણે ફોન પર જ કહીએ હા 54 છે, એક કામ કર બંગલો હા વેચી કાઢીશું, નવું લઈ લઈશું, હવે તો ઇન્ડેક્સેશન જતું રહ્યું પણ છતાંય એનું ઇન્ડેક્સેશન આટલું થશે, આશરે 3 ગણું મળશે. વાય? Let us try and understand that it is knowledge that we have gained through this qualification. It is knowledge that we have gained through our experience, and we must be able to value for our time. And that is going to be the underlying aspect for us if we have to make networking successful, because you will then have to learn to work in a group. You will have to learn to work with partners, and each one of us will have to start valuing our time, bill for our time. In terms of the global opportunities, 7 countries, 195 countries, and now today more than 182 accounting bodies. 162 accounting bodies. Why stop simply at India? So many global opportunities that are in front of us. Today with GIFT City and IFSC developing as a very important center for accounting, bookkeeping and taxation. Look at providing those services globally. અહીંયાનું GST રિટર્ન, ઇન્કમ ટેક્સ રિટર્ન ભર્યું હશે ને તો દુનિયાનું કોઈ બી રિટર્ન ભરી શકીશું. આટલું કોમ્પ્લિકેટેડ કશે જ નથી. કોઈ તમને ઓસ્ટ્રેલિયાનું વેટ રિટર્ન આપશે, તમે 4 વાર જોશો કે આટલું જ છે, કેમ કે એટલું સિમ્પલ છે. Similarly, you go to the UK, you go to other parts, રિંકેશ ભાઈ is here, NRI કન્સલ્ટિંગ કરે છે, યુએસના રિટર્ન ભરે છે. ઇન્સ્ટ્રક્શન્સ વાંચી લો ને ખાલી 1040ની, you don't need anything else. એક્ટ નહીં ખોલો ને એકવાર ચાલશે, but even if you look at the instructions of the income tax return, you are able to do it. The idea is whether I am able to look at the global opportunities. What were the 10 biggest brands in 2000? Why I am putting it is how the world very quickly changes. These were the brands that were big in 2000. Total change. Technology has taken over. Apple, Google, Amazon are the top companies. A time ago, I went to a conference and somebody asked, what is the biggest competition for airline? એક જમાનો તો એનો CEO એવું કે other airlines, railways, other modes of transport, maybe motor cars which are very fast. You know today what the answer is? The biggest competition for an airline is Zoom. કેમ કે તમારે પહેલાં અમદાવાદથી મુંબઈ જવું પડતું હતું અને મિટિંગ કરવી પડતી હતી. હવે ક્લાયન્ટને એક ઝૂમ લિંક મોકલી આપો ને કહો સાહેબ ફોન પર વાત કરી લઈશું, ઝૂમ પર વાત કરી લઈશું, ફેસ ટુ ફેસ. Look at how competition has changed. What used to be a competition for airline was another airline, a railway or a car is today technology. And therefore we have to understand, I as a practice will also have an ever-changing environment. I will have to adopt technology. 94% of the executives who asked what is going to change in the profession, there is going to be importance for complex compliances. Advisory services are going to be valued and paid for. SOC services will be important. Services in technology and big data are important. And high-level analysis, where you can deliver analysis to your client. Big data, what should be the price point, what should you be selling for, those are going to be important. Data entry, simple routine compliances, transaction tasks. આજે મનુભાઈ તમને બતાવશે કઈ રીતે 2 મિનિટમાં જવાબ કોઈ નોટિસનો આવ્યો હશે ને તો AI થી બની જશે. I in my office don't look after the income tax, but try and observe the whole activities of the office. Those who are aware, my father practices only in income tax. And the other day I was sitting with him and he said, જો Aniket, article છે 3 મહિનો જૂનો. એક આપણી ITITની અપીલ હતી. I asked him to make grounds of appeal. He used AI, but of course he was smart enough. Whatever cases came up, he cross-checked the references, taxman.com પર જઈ verify કર્યું. But the kind of submission that 3-month-old article assistant was able to create, કદાચ sorry to say, મારી બેચનો કોઈ ચાર્ટર્ડ એકાઉન્ટન્ટ હશે ને તોય નહીં કરી શકે. But why he was able to do it? Because he was using technology. So simple compliances are becoming easier. Complex compliances will require human intervention, where our value addition will come in, is going to be important. And for that, we will all have to follow 3 Ps. Process, build in processes within the organization, have product, find the right people. Look at processes. You're seeing, for example, Vishal Bhai is here. He shares so many files to all of us in terms of the updates. Use those processes. Engagement letter che, go to the Center of Audit Quality and see how you can issue an engagement letter, how you can issue other aspects. You need a strong defined process for everything that we do. Product, understand the services. Purushottam Bhai is here. He practices in a totally different area. IPR, intellectual property rights. Nobody does that. Vikas Bhai is in insolvency. I mean, I can see so many of my colleagues here. All of them are practicing in different areas. People, product, and processes. Very important that you'll understand. I'll just skip through these slides because I have limitation of time as we started a little late. But what I will then jump on to, and I will leave this slide for the branch to share it with all of you, is how the profession is changing in terms of the opportunities that you have. How can you go first from local to global? Understand what the institute is doing. Today, at the institute, we have MOUs and MRAs with 13 different countries. If you want to become a member of the UK Institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, we have a MOU and a MRA. They also have what is a lateral entry option in which you only have to give one paper. જેમાં 5 જ question પૂછશે, they call it the test of experience. For any member who has been a member of more than 5 years of the institute, a member in good standing, એટલે પુરુષોત્તમભાઈ જે CPA hours કરાવે છે, કમ્પલસરી CPA પૂરા કરવાના, નહીં પૂરા કરીએ અને ગુડ સ્ટેન્ડિંગ સર્ટિફિકેટ માંગશો તો નહીં મળે. સો વેરી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ દેટ યુ હેવ ટુ ફોલો ધોઝ CPA hours. બટ ઇફ યુ આર ડુઈંગ, you are a member in good standing had 5 years, એક જ પેપર લખો 5 questionનો, you are getting the UK qualification. CPA Australia, just 2 papers and you are able to get the qualification. These are all the institutes, ICAI, Chartered Accountant Australia and New Zealand, CPA Australia. All of this we have MOUs, MRAs with. So if you are looking to expand your international footprint, use these MOUs, MRAs, get the international qualification. I think Rinkesh Bhai, recently I saw you became CPA Ireland member, right? Very easy. Again, probably one paper that you would have to give, answer 3 or 4 questions and you're getting international qualification. I met the CEO of CPA Ireland, ગ્લોપેકમાં ગાંધીનગરમાં આવ્યા હતા અને મને એમને કીધું કે સાહેબ તમારા કેમ્પસમાં દર કેમ્પસમાં 500 લોકો મને આયર્લેન્ડ મોકલી આપો ને. That is the kind of shortage that we have in Ireland. તકલીફ એ છે કે -10 ડિગ્રીમાં જાય કોણ, પણ you have to find a way. Sometime go there, pitch to the Irish people, get the work here and execute it from here. For those of us who are willing to do it, again, a huge opportunity. Look at the entire African market. Huge opportunity, implementation of technology, SAP, controls. I was going for a conference in Africa and I just boarded the plane. Ethiopian Airlines છે, મેં તો પહેલી વાર સાંભળી. બોમ્બેથી હું ગયો, 5 જણ બિઝનેસ ક્લાસમાં અંદર ઘૂસતો હતો ને. કોઈ આવ્યું મળવા, સર કેમ છો? મેં કીધું આ ભાઈ મને ઓળખે છે. અગેન ટર્ન આઉટ ટુ બી અ ચાર્ટર્ડ એકાઉન્ટન્ટ. 5 લોકો બિઝનેસ ક્લાસમાં, તેમાંથી 4 ચાર્ટર્ડ એકાઉન્ટન્ટ હતા. 4 અલગ અલગ ફર્મમાંથી, એકમાં નહીં, પણ બધા આફ્રિકા કોઈ સર્વિસ પ્રોવાઈડ કરવા જતા હતા. That is the kind of opportunity in Africa. And one more thing which the institute is doing, which not many explore, are foreign language courses. આપણે બધી ભાષાઓ શીખી ગયા. કાલે ભૂપેન્દ્રભાઈનો એક લેક્ચર સાંભળતો તો ગુજરાતી માણસ હોય ને તો સામેવાળો જે ભાષામાં સવાલ પૂછે ને આપણે નેચરલી એ જ ભાષામાં જવાબ આપી દઈએ. હિન્દી સારું ના આવતું હોય તો હિન્દી બોલી જઈએ, અંગ્રેજી સારું ના હોય તો અંગ્રેજી જવાબ આપી દઈએ. એટલે જો ફ્રેન્ચ અને સ્પેનિશ આપણે શીખી લઈએ, અને ઇન્સ્ટિટ્યૂટ બેઓના કોર્સ ચલાવે છે, અલિયા ફ્રાન્સે જોડે ફ્રેન્ચ કોર્સ અને સ્પેનિશ કોન્સ્યુલેટ જોડે course in Spanish. If you learn Spanish, entire South American market opens up for you. If you learn French, it is not just France, Switzerland, so many other countries where French is spoken as the language of preference. Huge opportunity that opens up. So, yes, very important area, international practice. Corporate form of practice, where the institute is allowing, and not many of you will know this, as a chartered accountant in practice, holding full-time COP, you can become a whole-time director in a company which is a corporate entity. And pote managing director bani sako. It will be a management consultancy company. You only have to register it with the institute and practice in corporate form. There are hundreds of entities which have registered with the institute to practice in corporate form. Everything except attestation, audit, સહી જ્યાં યુડિનની જરૂર છે, એના સિવાયના જેટલા પણ કામ છે તમે કોર્પોરેટ ફોર્મમાં કરી શકો છો, in the form of a private limited company. These are already available in the form of corporate form of practice. What you can do, it shall not include the function of statutory or periodical audit, tax audit, representation or advice concerning tax matters such as acting as liquidator, etc. એટલે જ્યાં બેઝિકલી યુડિન જોઈએ ને એના સિવાયના જેટલા કામો છે અને આઈટીઆઈટી કે ઇન્કમ ટેક્સમાં અપિયર સેવા થવાના બધું જ તમે પ્રાઇવેટ લિમિટેડ કંપનીમાંથી કરી શકો. કેપિટલ સ્ટ્રક્ચર પ્લાનિંગ, વર્કિંગ કેપિટલ મેનેજમેન્ટ, પ્રોજેક્ટ રિપોર્ટ પ્રિપરેશન, કેશ બજેટ્સ, ઇન્વેન્ટરી મેનેજમેન્ટ, માર્કેટ રિસર્ચ, પ્રાઇસ ફિક્સેશન, ઓલ ઓફ ધીસ કન્સલ્ટન્સી એડવાઇઝીસ. બિકોઝ ક્લાયન્ટ તમારી પાસે આવશે ને કહેશે કે સાહેબ આ કામ કરવું છે, many of us are not able to bill for it. But if you say, wait, I have a separate management consultancy company where I'll be able to do this. We specialize in giving you advice on what should be the right price, what will be the market research and how you should price your products. Then you are able to show it in a corporate form and bill for it. When I went to Mumbai for articleship and practice and did my articles in one of the larger firms, આપણા ત્યાં કોઈ ક્લાયન્ટ આવે ને અને પૂછે કે મારે કંપની ઇન્કોર્પોરેટ કરી છે, આપણે કઈ આટલી કોસ્ટ થશે, કંપની ઇન્કોર્પોરેટ કરી કાઢીશું. ત્યાં શું શીખ્યો? સૌથી પહેલાં પૂછ્યું, વેટ, વી વિલ ટેલ યુ વોટ આર ધ ફોર્મ્સ ઓફ ઇન્કોર્પોરેશન ઇન ધીસ કન્ટ્રી એન્ડ ઇન ધીસ રીજન એન્ડ ધેન વી વિલ મૂવ ફોરવર્ડ. એ પહેલાં એક સારી પ્રેઝન્ટેશન મોકલે, પ્રોપ્રાઇટરશિપ, પાર્ટનરશિપ, LLP, પ્રાઇવેટ લિમિટેડ, પબ્લિક લિમિટેડ, વોટ આર ધ કી ડિફરન્સીસ, વોટ આર ધ ટેક્સ રેટ્સ. એ તમે એને મોકલો, ક્લાયન્ટ કહે, ઓ વેરી નાઇસ. પહેલાંથી ખબર હતી આપણને મનમાં કે આપણે LLP જ કરવાની છે, પણ પહેલાં મોકલ્યું શું? ઓપ્શન. પછી જોઈને કે LLP looks good because once the firm has paid taxes, after that the income in my hand is exempt and yet I am getting the protection of limited liability. Yeah, it's a good choice. Now I'll send you another proposal. અરે અલગ proposal જાય અલગ ફી બને of what are the steps involved in LLP. એનું પ્રેઝન્ટેશન જાય અને પછી જે LLP ઇન્કોર્પોરેટ કરવાની છે એની ફી બને. The same work that you do, you can break it down in three. I'm not saying you're doing something wrong, but this is what the market expects. તમે જઈને એને બેસો ને કહો આ LLP બનાવી દઈએ, આટલું કેપિટલ થશે, આમ થશે, એની વેલ્યુ જ નથી. You have to create value of this work, of how you do it through this presentation is very important. And all of that can be done through corporate form of practice. And finally, on the important aspect that I would like to touch upon, the last 10 minutes that I have, the topic in particular also which spoke about networking. What are the forms of networking? In the institute, formal networking means two or more firms registered with the ICAI, if they come together, they can create a formal network. The objective is to use the collective resources of the affiliates for execution of professional services of one or more type of multi-locational points. So, if you look at the guidelines, the first came in 2005, then revised in 2011, and now the current ones are in vogue. They were brought in with a preamble to strengthen India's CA firms and create large Indian CA firms. What were the concerns? Majority CA firms, like I showed you, are SMPs. Confined ourselves to the first slide that I mentioned, very limited areas of practice. We are focusing more on the allotment work that comes in through PDC. Other challenge which is faced today is કોનું નામ રહેશે, and therefore attachment with the firm. I want my name. But today when I go honestly across the country, especially have moved in Gujarat in all these elections. Now firms have at least, I see more firms with alphabets than names. પહેલા એક ટાઈમ હતું શાહ એન્ડ સો, પટેલ એન્ડ સો, હવે APTC, LJP, બધી અલગ અલગ alphabets નામ આવે છે. But therefore, not a huge dissuasion, but yet still people have that affection that now my name should be on the board. That is one reason that people are not able to do it. Clients switch over, and need of the hour is to venture into non-traditional areas. So why networking? I think I spoke about it. The Prime Minister has given a clear vision of creating large 100 firms. And when you do that, you are able to pool resources, expertise. I myself can only do so much. But if 5 of us come together, one can do audit, one can do tax, that is direct tax, one can do indirect tax, one can practice in corporate law, insolvency, one can be in valuation. We can pool resources, expertise, and show combined strength of ours for professional work. 2 approaches which the institute has come forward with. Alliance approach, network model. What is the difference between an alliance model and a network model? Very important for us to understand. I, in a lighter tone, put it as alliance model is nothing but a live-in relationship. You are coming together, seeing if you are compatible with each other. Network is more like a commitment through engagement, and therefore you are engaged to each other. And if you merge your firms, that is ultimately the marriage that happens between firms. And why I say that? Alliance and a network માં શું ફરક છે પહેલા આપણે સમજીએ. Alliance એટલે શું? There are 4 or 5 different firms. Let's say one in Ahmedabad, one in Gandhinagar, one in Mehsana, one in Surendranagar. And you want to come together and showcase to a client in Gujarat that we have a size, a omnipresence in Gujarat. But you are not confident whether I'll be able to do it. એની જોડે ફાવશે નહીં ફાવે, એમનું વર્ક કલ્ચર કેવું છે. Convert it into an alliance. The alliance is nothing but a formal structure of 5, 6, 10, 8, whatever you choose, firms coming together. You get a common brand as an alliance. Yet each firm independently keeps working. So how you do your audit, how you have your checklists, what you do in terms of your website, how you do your staffing, how you are able to manage your employees, what is the pay scale that you give at different levels. First year article ne api, atla api, second year. Each firm may have separate. That is an alliance model. What is a network model then? Network is slightly more structured, where again firms will come together. You have a common branding, but then you cannot have separate procedures. If an audit is to be done, the engagement letter Ahmedabad branch thi jai, Surendranagar branch thi jai, Mehsana branch thi jai, ke Mumbai branch thi jai, ke Delhi branch thi jai. The format of the engagement letter has to be the same. The letterhead has to be the same. If I'm doing the audit, I'm checking materiality, the materiality template has to be the same. I'm issuing a report, the report format has to be the same. I'm issuing an internal audit report, the internal audit report mechanism has to be the same. So in a network, firms come together but adopt the best practice. આપણે ભેગા થયા 5 જણ અને એવું થાય એના મુંબઈવાળાની ઇન્ટરનલ ઓડિટની પ્રેક્ટિસ સારી છે, એના ઇન્ટરનલ ઓડિટ રિપોર્ટ બહુ સારા છે. ટેક દેટ એન્ડ ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટ ઇટ ઇન યોર અમદાવાદ, બરોડા, સુરત, સુરેન્દ્રનગર, મહેસાણા firm. If you feel that the Surat firm has very good GST practice, see what software he's using, how he's doing it, and then implement the same mechanism of doing work in all of that. That is network. And merger, as you are aware, is nothing but all coming together and coming under the umbrella of a single firm. So 2 approaches, alliance and network. The alliance model, well, different firms come together, form an alliance, continue to practice independently and showcase to the world that I am in alliance. Approach 2 is the network model, and એમાં બી 2 sub part છે. Here you are coming together, but you have same policies, procedures. Here you can select from 2. One is a network model and the other is a lead firm model. The lead firm model was what? That we noticed when we were doing these networking guidelines, that the issue came that which will be the firm who can apply for empanelment, which will be the firm which should apply for CAG, PDC, because that is something which is the biggest impediment for firms to grow together. અત્યારે 4 જણ છીએ, ચારોમાંથી કોઈને, ભલે ચારોમાંથી કોઈને ઓડિટ નહીં આવ્યો હોય છેલ્લા 6 વર્ષમાં, પણ ઓડિટ આવી શકે એમ છે અને ભેગા થઈ શકે તો નહીં આવે તો શું થશે? That is one fear that all of them have. So here what they have said is you appoint one firm as the lead firm. That lead firm will get all the empanel work, and then internally you can decide how you want to share revenue. That is not for the institute to comment upon, because even today we don't get into, as an institute, what is your share of partnership, how the remuneration is paid. So that is the lead firm concept. So I hope clarity છે, alliance કમિંગ ટુગેધર અલગ અલગ એરિયામાં હતા, બધી ફર્મ્સ એક અલાયન્સ બનાવ્યું, ઇન્ડિપેન્ડન્ટલી પ્રેક્ટિસ કરો છો, ફાઇલ, મેથોડોલોજી, સ્ટાફિંગ, સેલરી બધું પોતાનું જુદું જુદું રહેશે. નેટવર્કમાં કોમન પ્રોસિજર્સ, કોમન ચેકલિસ્ટ, કોમન ફાઇલિંગ, કોમન બ્રાન્ડિંગ, કોમન વેબસાઇટ, કોમન લેટર હેડ, same processes for employment, same fees and salary structure that you will have. There two options, either come together as a full-fledged network and say member of this network, or you can choose the lead firm network. So how I defined it is the RRR approach. Alliance is registered, not recognized because you are separate individual entities, and partially regulated. A network model is registered to be recognized because today governments are not approving it, but the institute is in advanced talks. The MCA secretary had in fact come to the institute to have a discussion with the council, and he is saying that I will try and convince government departments, CAG, etc., that network also get recognized, and they are therefore then given work as on the strength of collective firms. But they are of course regulated because you will have to follow the networking guidelines. The alliance model is a new approach. Networking model જૂનું approach હતું, અને lead firm નવું approach આવ્યું છે. So in alliance model, you come together for mutual benefits. ABCD and alliance is the name, and you are issued a ARN. In case of networking model, you are coming together. You have to display the network name on the stationery. It is permitted. You are coming together, pooling of resources, combined strength with uniform policies, technology and collaterals. And the name, you have the option to choose either affiliates or ABCD network, and this is in the lead firm, very similar to that. Only thing is one firm will be assigned lead firm. So this is a very important chart. That is why I was jumping to this slide where I have put in the comparison. Alliance network and lead firm માં શું difference છે? ચાર firm છે, A and company, B and company, C and company, D and company. They come together, they form ABCD and alliance. That is the alliance, and like I said, they will be issued a ARN. In the other two cases, you are issued a NRN or a network registration number. In the case of a network where there is no lead firm, you can select either and affiliates or network, and the common name will be ABCD and affiliates. Whereas in the lead firm, one of the firms is to be selected within the constituent firms as lead firms. For example, આ ચારમાંથી આપણે A and company ને lead firm બનાવી, then the network firm can be A and company lead firm. So this is the difference between a network and a alliance, and within network, the two different networking formats that we have currently in vogue, which is the networking and the lead firm in network concept. So in terms of practice, as I said, alliance is more open. You are free to carry on practice as independent firms. You may direct to follow best practices, but there is no compulsion. Whereas in a network, you will have to have internal integration agreements. Practice can continue as independent firms, but you need an internal agreement. You will, as a network, need to have common policies and procedures. Empanelment, like I said, we are currently working on this. Conflict is very clear. You cannot say कि हमें चार ABCD भेगा आया, A and company statutory audit करसे and B and company internal audit करसे. That is not permitted. If you are a statutory auditor and you are not permitted to do internal audit within the same organization, then within the network also, the firms cannot do a statutory and internal audit, because that becomes a conflict. Therefore, very clearly mentioned that it will exist, and if you are doing a statutory audit, then the other cannot do internal audit. The characteristics I have tried to put in this presentation. I will request Chairman to share this slide for the benefit of all the members here, so that you are able to very clearly understand. In terms of reconstitution of an alliance, it's a very easy move in, move out process. You can join and exit as per your convenience. In the networking, it will be defined as per the networking agreement that you have. A draft networking agreement is also made available by the institute, which you can use. You can also develop your own. End of the day, it's your network which you are trying to create. Exit closure, because alliance is a, like I said, live-in kind of a method, it's very easy for you to create and exit also. Network slightly difficult because there will be engagements that you might have taken. An advantage within the network is that the network can create for itself a separate entity, which is an AOP, and non-attest work can be taken in the name of the network. So this is finally what the networking is. As I conclude, I think one important aspect, and Like Dr. Mitra said when he came, both of us are cricket buffs, and I think I go to the example of sports and cricket, of how you can build a successful network, larger firm, or even dream of becoming an international firm. It is because effectiveness in life lies in a group. You see that person there, he's sitting alone in the stadium. That is not how you can succeed. If you want to succeed, this is one image that will always resonate, especially with me. I was there in the Wankhede Stadium in 2011 when India won the World Cup. We all remember the image. And that is where I asked the question. India won the World Cup. But who was the captain? MS Dhoni. You look at all the images from the World Cup, Google it on your phone. On that day, he was standing on the side. The entire team was celebrating. You can see the cup in the hand of Sachin Tendulkar, all other players. MS Dhoni was in the corner. When he won the Champions Trophy, he was playing with his daughter on the side and let the entire team get the credit. If you want to succeed in a firm, create larger firm, create a larger network, some of us will have to take the role of MS Dhoni, of building a team, building a unit together, and when there is credit to be taken, don't come and take all the credit and try to shine in the limelight. Give it to your team, bring them in forward. Because if you do that, then like India did in 2011, you can also win the World Cup, become the largest accounting firms that we all dream of. Thank you very much.
We can do a quick question answer round with sir. So anyone having any questions? Yes, sir, please.
You talked about that management consultancy practice, practice in the forms of corporate.
Corporate firm.
So I wanted to know whether that would be allowed to do advertisement, or the guidelines would again be applicable, code of ethics and all.
So currently the clause 6, 7 and 8 of the Chartered Accountants Act first schedule will apply, and so will the advertisement guidelines. But if you look at the advertisement guidelines per se, Vikash bhai, and I would address the whole house here, they are not as regressive as you would think. You are allowed to do a website, you are allowed to create your profile. Of course, it should not be a push-based mechanism, but so much more has been allowed today in terms of the advertisement guidelines. The fact that there are guidelines on advertisement, that means the council and the institute itself accepts that you need to advertise in today's world, and you cannot simply just sit in your office and expect work to come. You will have to go out there and move around. So I think yes, to that question, that advertisement guidelines will apply, but they are very, very, I would say, liberal in a lot of extent. Of course, for us, a little more work could be done, but we have to be mindful of the fact we don't want to become so liberal that tomorrow you go to Kalopur station, and again, I use this very lightly, you see a chartered accountant going that bay tax or judek free, bay tax or judek. That will be the last day people advertise in that form. So the council is mindful that you want to control any advertisement which is demeaning the profession, but at the same time which is respectful. Believe me, I have chaired disciplinary committee for 2 years, 2 benches. Dada is here, he would have chaired. I have not seen complaint cases of our members going over the top, and I think the institute and the council also understands. If it is within the ambit of what is reasonably allowed, I think we are free to advertise.
So this is from the perspective that today so many chartered accountants, they want to come together and start KPO practice and all these things. So from that perspective, only youngsters, they want to do this practice, so they believe that they can just go and reach out to the public.
So 2 points. One, I would encourage them, do it in your practice firm. No problem. When I camera band kar do, na apna thei gyu. Second,
See Aniket Talati, sir, immediate past president of ICAI, distinguished members and dear colleagues. It is indeed a privilege to extend a heartfelt word of thanks to our esteemed speaker, Aniket Talati, sir, for his enlightening session on the opportunities for members via ICAI networking guidelines. Sir, we have often had the pleasure of hearing you on various forums as an esteemed chief guest and on the inaugural sessions. But today we had a privilege of having you as an esteemed speaker, sharing your vast experience and insights. As we all know that apart from excelling in the ICAI Council, you have also excelled in the profession, building a vast network of your firm. Your practical insights on the future of your profession were truly thought-provoking. You have reminded us that all the importance of reevaluating where our future lies and how we need to expand our horizons. We are truly grateful for the enlightening session, sir. Thank you once again, and I'm thankful that you have shared your wisdom today. Before we start the second session, would like to invite CA Vishal Doshi, sir, Central Council member, to speak few words and interact with the members. Let's have a huge round of applause for Aniket Talati, sir, and we welcome Vishal Doshi, sir.